How and why did Abimelech die? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Judges on walking through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing Judges 9 verses 50 to 57, but before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Judges chapter 9 verse 50, but if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Judges chapter 9, beginning at verse 50. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, and he encamped against Thebez and took it. But there was a strong tower in the city, and all the men and women, all the people of the city, fled there and shut themselves in. Then they went up to the top of the tower. So Abimelech came as far as the tower and fought against it. And he drew near the door of the tower to burn it with fire. But a certain woman dropped an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. Then he called quickly to the young man, his armor-bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, lest men say of me, 'A woman killed him.' So his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they departed, every man to his place. Thus God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech, which he had done to his father by killing his 70 brothers. And all the evil of the men of Shechem God returned on their own heads, and on them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal." In today's lesson, we come to the end of our look at Abimelech. For Abimelech, unlike some of the other judges in this book who have had a rather conflicted history, you can't really find any redeeming qualities to say, yes, this man did some things that were wrong, but on the whole he served God and did what was right. Abimelech was an arrogant and conniving man, which is how he became king. Abimelech was a murderer in that he mercilessly killed his brothers. We don't read of Abimelech ever repenting of that. In fact, he seemed to double down on the behavior that got him into power when he killed anyone who dared to challenge his authority. He killed Gael and the men of Shechem that came out against him. He killed the rest of the people of Shechem in the last lesson, ending the unrest that was going on there. Coming out of verse 50, we have Abimelech leaving Shechem and coming to Thebez. While it's not entirely known where Thebez was, educated guesses would place Thebez about 21 kilometers or 13 miles north by northeast of Shechem. While it is not said in this passage why Abimelech went there, it is obvious from his actions that the people of this city joined in the actions of the Shechemites in rebelling against him. The battle in Thebez in the beginning looked a lot like the battle in Shechem. Abimelech and his men took the city, while those who were not killed were shut themselves in the tower of the city, which itself would be a stronghold. However, was Abimelech going to defeat those who barricaded themselves in the tower? And how was he going to do that? The same way he defeated the men of Shechem, by burning it down. But this time it didn't work, for before Abimelech could set the tower on fire, a woman dropped an upper millstone from where she was located in the tower, which landed on Abimelech's head, crushing his skull. The mills used for grinding grain at this time were a smooth stone that was worked across a larger flat stone. Often both stones were made of a very hard stone, such as basalt. The smaller upper stone would be known as the upper millstone. Weighing several pounds, such a stone would be too heavy to throw too far, but it would be ideal for dropping on an enemy from above. Now this blow to the head didn't instantly kill Abimelech, for he called his armor-bearer to him and told the armor-bearer to kill him with his sword, lest it be said of him that a woman had killed him. Why would Abimelech care? Because being remembered for being killed by a woman, one who is generally physically weaker, would be seen as a sign of weakness yourself, and would bring dishonor among your reputation as a man of valor. It is entirely an ego thing, for who killed you isn't going to change the fact that you're dead. But often, especially among the proud, how one dies and is remembered by those left behind is important, and so Abimelech didn't want to be remembered as a weakling who allowed himself to be killed by a woman. King Saul would later have the same thoughts before he died in battle, except he didn't want to be remembered as being killed by the Philistines, which again would be seen as dishonorable in his eyes. For the Christian, I know it is hard sometimes, but we need to learn to be less concerned with how men and women view us or will remember us after we die, and more concerned with how God views us. Our time on this earth is short, but eternity will be forever. Would you rather be remembered by those who will die themselves as a good man in man's eyes, but not righteous before God, or as someone less important, and perhaps bad in man's eyes, but saved by God through grace? Personally, the latter should be our answer, as God is going to be the one who decides where we spend eternity. For Abimelech, he didn't care about God's opinion, simply man's. The ironic thing, the writer of Judges tells us that Abimelech was killed by a woman, even though his armor-bearer finished the job at his request. So Abimelech isn't remembered the way he wanted to be remembered anyway. As for why Abimelech died, it is said that this was God executing his justice against Abimelech for what he did to his brothers in killing them. Why did God allow Abimelech to win earlier battles? Because God was also exacting justice on the men of Shechem for making Abimelech king in the first place and following Abimelech in his evil deeds. In total, Jotham's curse against both Abimelech and the men of Shechem came true. Abimelech killed them, but those who remained killed Abimelech. So that is the account of Abimelech. The Lord willing, in the next lesson, we'll be looking quickly at the two judges that followed Abimelech before moving on to cover the judgeship of Jephthah. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Judges chapter 10, verses 1 to 5, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.